Oh, for God's sake, man, put some pants on. Children watch this channel. There we go. I know, you want to see Venom finished. You want Thanos. But I want Goku. That came out wrong. This video will be the final tutorial in my How to Make a Paper Model series where I will finally see Goku complete. At least one of his many forms. Let's get going. This is what I'm aiming for here. This battle damage rendition of Goku's outfit with the base form head, just because that's what I happen to do first. I can add all the other forms later too. And this is what I'm starting with. Actually, that's not true. I've already done his right thigh. So this is what I'm starting with. So all that's left is his lower leg, his boots, this part down here, the little red shoelace things on his boots, the ripped parts above his sash belt thing, the remains of his shirt, the ripped pants for his upper left leg, lower right leg, and of course, the back muscles, the last major part I need to cover in this tutorial series. How would I go about making the back muscles? I would start it the same way as any other part, and that's with the structure pieces. Since the traps and lats are the most prominent back muscles, those are the structure pieces I have chosen. How do you make them? I'm glad you asked. Look at your drawing from the side view to see what the shape looks like from the side, from at least 2 dimensions, right? So you can see what it looks like just including the height and depth. Then take that, attach it to a thin strip of paper down the middle, and then have a symmetrical shape on the other side. Fold it together like this with the thin strip wrapping around, and then now you have a 3D object. Glue that to the frame of your model. And now I have the lat pieces here, which are kind of just this C shape that are going the other way. And so now we have the 3 dimensions of width, depth, and height forming most of the shape. And all the paper will do is fill in the gaps between these points. You start with what you know and you guess the rest. So the next question is, what does the back actually look like? Basically like this. First we have the traps, which attach around the front here to the collarbone, and then they swoop all the way around to about halfway down the back here. Secondly, we have the lower back muscles, and they're basically just a pair of tubes running up along the spine here, with some thinner ones down the bottom and then some kind of thicker ones up the top here. Thirdly, we have the lats, which are the big muscles here that give the width and shape of the back. And they're usually thickest on the side around under the armpit. Then above them we have the shoulder muscles that are kind of just responsible for rotating and moving the arm. So this big ball-like tube here is the teres major, and then this one up here is meant to be the infraspinatus. You'll also notice I have this line going down here, and that's meant to be indicating the muscle underneath the lat called the serratus anterior, which meets with the obliques down the side and creates this kind of zigzag pattern, so it sort of looks like a fan. But sometimes when it's really developed, it can be really thick and create this kind of extra bump through the lats. But then this extra little bump here is the serratus anterior that I was talking about. And then the infraspinatus and the teres major are kind of just blended into this mass here. Because it's the innermost muscle that's still visible, I always start with the lower back muscles. So it's basically just going to be a single piece of paper like this. And then it's just going to be curled up a little bit so it's popping out. And then that's just going to slot in right here at the bottom of the lower back. Then just stick it on. The next thing to do is to start with the lats, and the lats are going to come up above these pieces here, and you really just got to start with like a scrap piece of paper wrapping around the structure piece you've set in, and then just sort of see where it's going to need to be cut to actually just meet the body, because that's all you have to do. You just have to bridge the gap between the structure piece and the body. In Goku's case, I'm actually going to have some very flat and pointy lats, and then I'm going to add on top the serratus popping through like I mentioned here, which is kind of just a second bump. So the lat will just look like a piece like this. Fold the little gaps together and then color it in and stick it around, hopefully. Yep, just like this. The serratus bump will be here, which looks like this as a flat piece of paper. Just 3 cuts needed to shape this one. On top of that, sort of covering the rear deltoid here, I'm going to have the teres major and the infraspinatus piece, just like this one kind of muscle blended together. And then finally there's the traps, which are kind of a pain because you've got a lot of areas you want to bridge here. So you want to have it covering all this and then sort of neatly filling in this gap and then curving down towards, like, it usually takes me like an hour or 2. I'm pretty sure I spent like 4 hours getting Venom's traps into a position that I like them. So, you know, take your time. You're going to get out of your work the time you put into it. And I don't just mean the time in one day, I mean the time over your whole life. So finally, this is what it would look like for the traps. So I made sure it's long enough to actually cover this whole area. And that's just going to stick over the top like this. And now that's it really. So it's just 4 pieces. It's the latissimus first, then the serratus bump on top of that, the teres major and infraspinatus piece, and finally the traps will be covering the lot, sweeping over to the front. That is what it takes to make a convincing back with paper. I think it looks quite good actually. And with that, I have completed my last tutorial. I won't be doing any more because I've showed all the techniques and principles to make Goku, and they apply the same way to any character. You start with a drawing so you know what proportions you're aiming for. You build in a joint at each point that you want to move. You put in structure pieces in key areas to maintain the proportions, giving structure to the shape. Then you add paper on top of that to fill in the gaps. And how complicated and detailed this part gets depends on your skill level, on how much time you want to put into it, on what ideas you have. It depends on you. So I hope that in you seeing exactly how I've made Goku through these tutorials, you can take my methods and techniques and apply them to any character you want to make, or maybe something entirely different. So don't be expecting specific tutorials for Spider-Man or Venom or a female character. They're made the same way as Goku. They have the same muscular system. They have the same skeleton. They have the same parts. They're still humanoid figures. It's the proportions and minor details that vary, but they're gonna vary all the time. Every character is different, but they're also similar in more ways than people tend to notice. Focus on what's the same first before worrying about how it's different. Now that doesn't mean I won't be giving you insight into how I do something. I still plan to show key parts of the building process like I did in my recent video, and even in this video you saw me show the flat piece of paper before it was folded into a 3D shape for each of the back muscles. Just pause the video there and observe where I've cut the paper and what kind of shape it is. Try it out for yourself and see how it could apply. It's just the step-by-step tutorial I won't be doing anymore. I'm very against showing somebody exactly how to do something the way that I've done it because you'll grow more if you have to figure it out for yourself. Creativity can't be taught, only learned.
Dramatic finish!
Oh, and to finish off the model, I'll add the upper part to his right boot, the ripped parts around his waist section, his shoelaces, I guess, the ripped pants piece for his lower left leg, upper right thigh, and yep. And now he is complete, the battle-damaged base form Goku I set out to complete. I hope his knees being on display like this isn't too promiscuous for you, but I'm pretty damn happy with it. I think it ended up a little beefier in the upper body than I had intended, but I think it's fine, and I am quite impressed actually by the depth of his pants here with all the rips and the wrinkles in the pants. It looks really authentic. I mean, I could talk for hours about this kind of stuff, but I'm just gonna let the model speak for itself. So thank you for watching, and this has been the final tutorial. With that, I think you have all the tools needed to go out and do it yourself. And if you don't care about making your own paper model, I thank you for watching anyway. I appreciate the support. See you next time.